Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Sheldon. Episode 191 is live ahead of UFC Vegas this weekend. First up, we're going to be joined by John Castaneda to preview his fight against Douglas Silva D'Andrade. A really good chat with John, who's been sitting on the sidelines for a while. He's been eager to get back in there. Hasn't fought since June of last year, but he's looking forward to fighting a guy like Douglas. Got a new contract. It's supposed to be his last fight in the deal, but UFC didn't want him to fight at the deal, which is always telling, but it's good news what they think of him. And then we close things out talking to Austen Lane to preview his fight against Mario Pinto. Austin saved his UFC job with his last fight, beating Rebellis de Spain. That was the last fight of his deal. Got re-signed, now fights another undefeated prospect in Mario Pinto. And he's kind of expecting a similar result. A lot of people are expecting to get knocked out, but he has full confidence, did this camp at American Top Team and ready to go and prove people wrong again. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC bantamweight John Castaneda, who's back actually on March 1st. John, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, been a bit since we saw you, like June of last year. Like, were you kind of hoping to get one more in last year? Like, imagine it's a lot longer of a layoff than what you thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping to get one in. Yeah, no December left. But we take them as they come. You know, I've got a lot of good time in camp, getting ready, making some moves. You know, just getting better all around. So, you know, when I have bigger layoffs like this, especially now, like I don't take them for granted. I'm in the gym, I'm working, whether I have a fight or not, I'm training hard every single day, you know, 6 days a week. So we made a lot of leaps in our game these last 6-7 months. So I'm really ready. I'm really ready to show off here come March.
Just quickly on your last fight, like fighting a really tough guy. I still feel like people don't kind of realize how good Daniel is. Like, what do you kind of take away from that fight?
Yeah, Daniel's super good. Obviously, you know, he's 18-0. He's undefeated, especially after he fought me. You know, he went on to beat Adrian Yanez. I think that I underestimated him a little bit. I also feel like some things personally were going on with me during that fight. A lot of mental stuff, right? I feel like physically I was very prepared for that, but just mentally, it was really dogging on me fight week. So I didn't really show up that fight as much as I could, but I've gotten those things taken care of. You know, I think the mental aspect of this sport is just as important, if not more important than the physical aspect of it. Right. So, was able to kind of meet with a mental coach and got everything on lock now. So we're good.
And then fighting a guy like Douglas Silva D'Andrade, like fought a lot of the top guys, like fought Jan Vaughn, like has a win over Vera, like fought a lot of these top guys. Like, how happy are you with this opponent then?
Super happy. Yeah, absolutely. Especially not only because of that, I think that's a huge part of it as well, right? He's fought a lot of experienced guys, a lot of well-known guys, but stylistically, I really like this matchup. Guys who, you know, are a little bit unorthodox, but also like low volume and like high power strikers, right? I feel like I do really well against those kind of strikers, and it's, I guess, like a good example would be like my performance against like Miles Johns, who actually, I feel like they have very similar styles, right? Huge power in their hands, very low output, but you can just tell too, they're like, you know, muscled out. So the same format. And those two guys just recently fought. So I'm super confident, not only because of like the stylistic matchup, but also just because of the work that I've put in. So very.
Obviously, Miles is a common opponent for both you guys. You submitted him. He lost to him. I know MMA math doesn't work, but do you look at like your fight against Miles and his fight against Miles to kind of see like what maybe Miles is able to do successfully against you or what he was able to do successfully against him and kind of find some openings that way?
Yeah, no, MMA math definitely doesn't work like that, right? But some things that I noticed from Douglas going into fighting Miles is he was a little bit more tentative, right? So he obviously respected Miles's power, whereas I didn't. I was in Miles's face the entire fight, right? And I don't think that he thinks that I have the same power as Miles. So I don't think he's going to fight me like he fought Miles. I don't know. It's just that whole dynamic between like having a fighter in common like that, it really doesn't do much for me. It doesn't really make sense to kind of like compare like apples to oranges, but it's like I said, stylistically, I know this is a really good fight for me.
He is a guy like size wise, you guys are pretty similar, but it's just like he has bounced around between featherweight and bantamweight before just because of how kind of muscular he is. Like, do you think there'll be like a strength or size disparity in there? Or do you think you guys will be pretty similar?
No, no, not at all. I mean, even guys like Miles, Miles had some size on him. Yeah, he's fought at 45 before, but honestly, like Miles could easily fight at 45. Miles was super, super athletic and just like a big build. But I mean, if I'm being honest, like when I fought Miles, I didn't think he was there. I didn't think he was that strong at all. I've definitely fought some strong dudes, but um, sometimes those show muscles aren't really for fighting.
Uh, is it same camp as always? Like same training partners, or bring anyone different in for this one?
No, same camps. I've implemented some new things. I've started working with a new strength conditioning coach. Um, my coach Maurice over at Work Gym here in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Same gym as my boxing coach Delico. So I've been really just dialing in on my strength conditioning, my conditioning in general, right? My boxing, my jiu-jitsu, everything's firing on all cylinders right now. Same training partners. I got my guy Quang Lee, who I think since the last time we talked, he's in the UFC now, but I don't think since June, I don't think he was. So he's freshly in the UFC. I got a lot of my gym is here at the Minnesota Martial Arts Academy. It's a lot of young guys who you guys might not know their names, but you will, sometime soon. These guys are 20 to 22, 23 years old. And just absolutely studs, right? Making a scene right now on the local scene. But here in the next coming years, it's going to be, Minnesota's growing and the Midwest in itself is growing a lot. There's going to be a lot of UFC guys here and a lot of high level athletes coming out of this camp over here. So Noah Gasho, Kanan Swanson, Quang Lee, my wrestling coach, Joseph Deshu, just a lot of good guys around me right now.
With Douglas, like extremely durable guy, like it's Font and it's Font and Jan, the only two guys to finish him. Like Lerone Murphy up a weight class couldn't finish him. It's like he's kind of expecting this to be like a 3-round hard fight then.
No, I don't think so. See, so I think that I plan on fighting him just like I did Miles. I'm going to be in his face. I'm going to wear him out. Obviously I got to give him his respects, but I feel like because he's such a low output fighter, I can put on the pace. I can really like wear on that gas tank. He is durable for sure, but it's because everybody's very tentative against him. Everybody's kind of fighting him on the outside and doing damage, getting out. I'm going to be in his face the entire time. I'm going to put the pressure on him. I'm going to hurt him and I'm going to wear on that gas tank. So
is that just something you like are confident in? Like the longer the fight goes, the better it is for you. Like we have seen Douglas kind of slow down the longer the fights goes. Like does that kind of give you a lot of confidence going in then?
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel like a lot of guys like they mistake him for having like this really good gas tank because he's able to throw power from start to finish, but it's because nobody's in his face. Nobody's fighting him with like as a pressure fighter, right? I really going back to like the Miles Johns fight, like guys who have a lot of power like that, but are low volume strikers, you just got to be in their face. You got to wear on that gas tank. You got to touch the body a lot. They're going to start to come down. And like I said, all those muscles, they need oxygen. And after a while, you just start to slow down naturally. Like I said, I've been really working on my strength conditioning, especially the conditioning aspect of it. I'm really excited to show that off.
Was that something you thought you needed to improve on, or just like why'd you kind of decide to make the change and kind of go all in on that?
No, just I didn't think that I needed to, but I do think that sometimes. So, for instance, like my last fight, and I don't think conditioning had a big factor into it, but I would say that I was slacking on my strength conditioning during that camp. And sometimes when you slack in a certain area, you have like a chink in the armor, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was one of them. My last camp, my last fight. I was on a couple fight win streak. I was like, you know what? I don't need strength conditioning as much as I do, blah, blah, blah. So you skip these things. And then it's like, dang, like fight week, it's just a chink in the armor. And I didn't, I left no stone unturned this camp. So I did everything the right way, everything you should have. I went above and beyond and just making sure that I'm in the best shape I possibly can be.
Douglas is a guy like we've talked about, like only really the top guys beat him. So like, where do you think a win kind of puts you? Because you're a guy like, even though this is only your 8th fight, like you fought a lot of these guys like kind of right near the rankings, like from the get go.
Yeah. I think it's important getting past Douglas, and then it's important, winning one or two more, and then I'm right back in that conversation for another top 15 fight. I think that that's what's important here, especially in the bantamweight division. It's you can't like go half and half. You can't go. You can't be a 500 fighter and expect to fight a top 15 guy, right? Rack up a few wins, have a good record in the division, and then kind of like earn your way up to those top 15. But do I think I'm right there on the cusp of a top 15 opponent? Absolutely. I look at the guys who are like ranked 10 to 15, and I think to myself, like, I absolutely beat any of these guys. Now, when you get into the top 10, it's like for sure, like I got to prep. This guy's got strengths here, which I think are better than me. I got strengths on him here, but I feel like 10 to 15, I'm pretty confident when it comes to like fighting those guys. So I just got to put a couple wins in a row, and then time will tell.
Just at the Apex, is that annoying for you? Like, are you kind of hoping to get in front of the crowd, or do you not really care?
No, not really. I really enjoy Vegas in general, but I like the Apex. Honestly, it's a little bit less pressure.
And I feel like probably fight week goes a lot smoother. Like PI's there, probably help with your weight cut. Everything's kind of all there. Like tons of gyms, people will let you come train in. So I feel like it is probably easier than flying out to some random city and who knows what kind of gyms or what facilities they got out there.
For sure, I think honestly the PI itself, that was perfectly said. So like the PI itself, those little portable saunas at the UFC. Hate those. They just do not get hot enough. I don't like them. It's a preference thing. Like I really like the PI. It's super funny you said that actually. Like I booked my sauna sessions a month ago for my weight cut for my fight. Like I wanted to make sure that I had it all locked into place, like Thursday night, Friday morning. Like I genuinely love the PI and everything about Vegas. And honestly, the best part about it is right after the fight, there's a plethora of food, right?
Yeah. How does that work for the PI? Like, I just thought like on fight week, you kind of had access to it. You have to book like times in to go into it.
It's not the only reason you would have to book is if your opponent books before you, right? So if Douglas books for a weight cut on Friday morning at this time, I cannot be in that sauna room or utilizing the same room as he is, right? So I like to get ahead of it, book that thing in advance, and yeah.
Just final thing, like what is kind of the goal for you? Like I imagine a bit more active this year. I know fighting early March. Can you try to probably sneak in 2 more at least? Like, so what is kind of the goal and like where you kind of see yourself at the end of the year?
I just signed a new contract. This Douglas fight was going to be my last fight on my contract. So I just signed a new one after that. So I'm feeling motivated. I'm like I said, I'm doing all the right things now. I'm all in. I want to fight here in March, obviously. And then I heard there's a card in April in Florida. I would love to hop on that. I love fighting in Florida as well. But yeah, at least 2 more, squeezing 2 more in if I can. Obviously, if it works out in my favor, a quick turnaround, a quick fight in March, quick turnaround, and then another one at the end of the year. So that's the goal. Rack up a couple wins, finish Douglas first. That's the first goal in mind, and kind of keep progressing through the division.
Just quickly, just brought up the new contract. Did you think like they were going to make you fight it out, or because I know some guys like fighting it out, coming off a loss, gotta maybe boost their stock? Like, what was kind of the thought behind that, did you think you were going to have to fight it out?
Yeah, I think essentially I was going to fight it out, and then my management team with Iridium Sports, they kind of just went to bat for me, and the UFC. I think that regardless of whether I'm winning or not winning, or I'm coming off of a loss, I feel like I'm in an exciting fight, right? Or I feel like I am. But obviously the UFC liked me enough to sign me before having to fight out the contract. So I'm very blessed, obviously like having a little bit of job security is always good. But yeah, would it have been nice to get the win and like you said, kind of like grow the stock a little bit and then go to battle with the contract for sure. But right now it's job security is also nice.
Is this what 3rd contract now then with the UFC? Oh, what's that like for you? Like, I know it took a while to get there with Combate and like kind of getting out of that and getting to the UFC, like to get 3 contracts, pretty impressive.
No, absolutely. I've always said like getting to the UFC is hard, but like staying in the UFC is even harder. And I think it's, like I said, it's I'm doing all the right things. I'm putting on exciting shows, but I know that I can get to that next level. I just need to dial in, and I feel like that's where I am right now. Like I'm dialed in on all aspects of the game, mentally, physically. I'm doing all the right things outside of camp. I have no other distractions going on, so I think we're doing all the right things, and I think it's going to show this next contract here. I'm going to put I'm going to put together a big win streak or at least a lot of exciting fights, and I'm going to get a lot of finishes. I'm very confident about it.
Well, John, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Cole, appreciate you, man.
Yep. All right, we're joined by UFC heavyweight Austen Lane, who's fighting this Saturday. Austin, how's it going, man?
Cole, man, I'm casual, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Like, obviously, appreciate you doing this a couple days away from the
Yeah.
fight. Like, I just quickly want to touch on your last one in October. Like, obviously, a huge underdog. I think a lot of people thought you were going to get knocked out early against him and kind of back against the wall for your job. Like, what kind of was that win like for you? And, like, how much confidence does that give you on in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that win was everything, man, right? Because we're talking about my job being on the line. That was the last fight of my contract. And if I would have lost that fight, I'd be out of the UFC. Simple as that. So I knew what was at stake, but ironically, that was probably the most calm I've ever been in a fight. We had a great game plan, training with Eric and those guys at Extreme Couture. I thought really elevated me because this was really my first time like training at a big gym with guys my size and everything. I thought it paid dividends. And yeah, man, it's kind of I feel like it's kind of the story of my life. Like when I go through a lot of crazy things, man, I always come back better and I always end up surprising some people. And I'm not naive to the fact. I knew a lot of people were going against me. I know people thought I was going to get knocked out and everything. And I just couldn't let it happen, man. I still have a lot of things I want to do in this sport. I still have a lot of things I want to accomplish. So obviously I put my heart and soul into it and it all worked out.
After that fight, you said it was the last fight. Did you think, like, was there still some thought of, like, hey, maybe the UFC might just say, hey, thanks for everything? Like, or did you know, like, after the win, they're going to re-sign you?
Oh, no. I had no idea, man, especially going into a decision. I honestly thought I thought it was probably about a coin flip. I thought I had a 50% chance of getting re-signed and a 50% chance of saying, hey, thanks for your services. We'll see you later. So, if you watch that last fight, kind of what happened. I had this whole speech prepared because I was literally going to like try to sing for my job and everything. And then when Paul Felder got up there with the microphone, I just said, screw it, man. Like I don't want to beg for anything. So let me just go ahead and say what I got to say. Let me go ahead and say what's on my mind. And in those moments, it was about my son. So I spoke my piece, said some stuff to him. And I knew once I left that cage, man, regardless of if I got signed, re-signed or not, didn't really matter because I said what I wanted to say.
Going into this one, did you change anything training-wise or same as the last one for this one?
No, so I had to change some things because originally my opponent was supposed to be out of Extreme Couture. So I couldn't come to Vegas to train for that one, unfortunately, to get another fight camp. So I ended up training my entire fight camp at American Top Team in Coconut Creek. And when my opponent fell out probably 6-7 weeks ago, I decided to stay at American Top Team just because they were so good to me. I was getting great work in there. They opened their doors, so I wanted to make it right with them and decided to have my whole camp there at American Top Team. But that's been the biggest change, But in terms of the work, in terms of going about my business, nothing's changed there. I mean, you talk about Extreme Couture, talk about American Top Team, you talk about two great gyms with a lot of great fighters, a lot of bigger guys that can help me in terms of sparring, and a lot of great advice, man. So it was a great opportunity to train down there in Coconut Creek with a lot of highly skilled individuals, and I definitely feel like I upgraded my skill set.
Are you full-time at ATT, or are you just going to take it fight by fight, kind of see where the camp goes?
Yeah. I mean, I think as of right now, it's a lot more convenient for me, especially, having a 9-year-old son. American Top Team is about a 4-hour drive from Jacksonville. So there definitely is a convenience factor with that. But obviously, when it comes time to have another camp, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Your opponent, Mario Pinto, like, how familiar were you with him? Like, making his debut, quick work
Yeah.
in the series. Like, I think it's pretty similar to the last guy, where like a lot of knockouts early, a lot of hype. Kind of, I see the similarities between this one and your last one.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people think again, it's going to go the way the Rebellis fight was supposed to go against me. I haven't even really seen the updated odds, man. Nor do I really care about the updated odds. But yeah, I think you look at Mario Pinto. You see a guy who is definitely a verse striker. Is a very calm and collective fighter. If you go back into his fights and everything, he's fought an entire range of different disciplines. He's fought some great grapplers. He's fought some great strikers, but he always kind of has the same mindset where he's calm and he kind of lets his opponent make the mistakes a little bit. got a pretty good ground game. He's very versed, very comfortable against the cage, reversing positions, things like that. So he's definitely a complete fighter. I mean, he's definitely considered more of a striker, but I don't think you can really sleep on his grappling either. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. Obviously we got a great game plan put into place. We've seen some things that we were going to try to exploit, and yeah, man, ready to go to war.
Who is going to be in your corner for this one?
Yep. So it's going to be my coach now for the past couple of fights. He's basically my main striking coach. It's going to be Seth Dupuis out of Jacksonville. Then I'm going to have Coach P Payampa out of American Top Team. And then I'm also going to have, my essentially brother who kind of got this started together was Ramon Tavares, who's a UFC fighter himself. He's been in every one of my fights. He's been in my corner. So those will be my three cornermen.
A lot of heavyweights at American Top Team. Like, how much do you think that will help you going into this one? Where, like, I don't know which heavyweights are there. Obviously, there is a ton. Like, I know, like, Pavlovich is there, like Rosenstruck. I don't know which ones are there.
Yep.
Obviously, a lot of big bodies to work with.
Oh yeah, man. And that was probably the testament to even more than Extreme Couture, who once again, Extreme Couture got some big heavyweights, but American Top Team definitely had more of them. And it was weird because I was kind of like the black sheep of the group, right? Because like I was the only one I think that spoke English. Because yeah, you have a lot of Brazilians. There are some Russian guys there. You had Rosenstruck there. So I was definitely kind of the outlier, it seemed like, but they all embraced me, man. And we got some great rounds and we got some great work in all the disciplines. There's great strikers, there's great wrestlers there. So, yeah, I mean, I just think overall, man, in terms of my confidence coming from my last fight, getting a lot of new looks with some bigger dudes, it's only going to build my confidence for this fight.
How do you kind of see this one playing out then?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can go a lot of ways, right? Because I don't think my opponent's going to make a lot of mistakes, especially in the beginning. He's going to feel everything out a little bit, and I got to make sure that I remain calm and I don't make mistakes either. So you could see a little bit of a chess match, but he can throw leather, man. I can throw leather. I'm very comfortable wherever this fight goes, but I have it in my mind, man, that it's going to be a war. It's going to be bloody, and as long as I'm breathing, man, I'm gonna keep on coming.
Back at the Apex, do you enjoy that? I know it's the third straight one, like smaller octagon for you. You can kind of close the distance a lot easier if you want to. Like, is that something you enjoy?
Fight's a fight, man. It doesn't matter if it's in a parking lot at the 26 or 25-foot octagon, 30-foot octagon. I would say, like, yeah, the cage is a little smaller, so I guess it's better for grapplers. But I've always been confident with my movement, my footwork. When I'm 100%, man, I feel like I can use that movement and I can make it seem like it's 30 feet, right? So I'm not too worried about the size of the cage. I mean, the biggest difference is, just the crowd, right? So I've always been more of a self-motivated type of person. So these past couple of fights, especially my last fight, man, I've really taken it upon myself in terms of a lot of more like mental work and things like that, man. So I get so locked in where I don't even notice a crowd or all I'm listening for is like my coach's voices and everything. So yeah, I mean, we're all creatures of habit here, right? Especially in the fight game. So to fight it in a place that I fought many times before, to make that same drive, to go to the same place, it's only going to help me.
And then your last fight, like, how much confidence does that give you where you're able to go not just 3 rounds, but 3 hard rounds, like involving the wrestling? Just kind of, I know you obviously had confidence in cardio, but just kind of to prove it to kind of everyone and yourself that, like, hey, it's not just like 15 minutes straight. Like, I can go 15 minutes hard wrestling too.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I could have went 5 rounds there. I just got a little choked up and probably seemed more tired than I was when I gave my speech, just because there was a lot of emotion tied to it. But I felt great, and I think when you look at my fight before that against Denise, I think a lot of people had a preconceived notion of what my cardio was. But and not gonna make up any excuses, but needless to say, I was not 100% for that Denise fight. I think if you watched how I fought and you watched how I came out in the second round, you could kind of tell something was wrong. Don't need to go in depth into it because that's long and gone, man. I'm 100% now, but I always take pride in my cardio, and if I'm 100%, I can go 5 rounds. So this camp, knock on wood, I've been 100% healthy. I've been able to get all my cardio in and everything like I need to. And yeah, you're going to see 3 rounds, man, of nonstop chaos, I feel like.
What do you think a win here does to you? Like, heavier division, it's kind of wide open. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like there's not a whole lot of you guys in the division. Like, 2 wins in a row, 2 big upsets, 2 kind of beaten top prospects. Like, what do you think that kind of does to you in the division?
Man, I don't even know anymore, man, because it's so hard to read this division. I mean, guys are coming and going. Some high level guys are going as well, so it's wild. I don't know, man. I'm just focused on the task at hand right now. Trying to get my hand raised, and then we'll kind of evaluate after that. But just got to take it one step at a time. But especially in this division, where if you can string 3-4 wins together, there's no telling what can happen.
Not looking past this fight, but they are going to Miami in the middle of April. Like, is that kind of the ideal kind of goal? Get this one done and get a pretty quick turnaround fight in Florida.
I mean, yeah, man. I'm always down to fight, right? So, it is what it is. It's kind of like right in my backyard. So, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But once again, I mean, I got to take care of business this Saturday first, and then I can kind of dissect all that coming up.
Final thing, not fighting related, football a bit. The Jaguars coach, the introduction. Like, what do you kind of think as a player that used to be in the locker room? Like, would that get sent around the players and been like, "Is this our new coach?" Or
Yeah, man. Yeah, obviously, from that press conference, his introductory press conference, you take one soundbite away from it, and that was him. That was him saying Duval. Yeah, man. I mean, I just kind of laughed that off. Like, I don't think players buy too much into that. Obviously, in terms of social media, everyone's going to gravitate towards that, call it cringy, whatever the case may be. But I think the Jaguars got it right with Liam Cohen. I think they got it right with what they're trying to do right now. Because if you analyze of how it's gone the past decade here in Jacksonville, it hasn't been good. And you have an owner in Shad Khan now who has done things a certain way, who has decided to pivot and now try things a new way, right? And that's with a very young coaching staff, a very young front office. They just hired their new GM. He's a young cat out of Los Angeles, so they announced him today. So I think you have a team right now, man, that's just trying to swing, that's trying to take cracks at it and hopefully get this right. And I think with Liam Cohen and company, I mean, they have the culture that's going to be able to relate to a player just because they are on the younger generation side. But now you got to ask the question of, do they have I guess like the street smarts, because they're very book smart, right? It's offensive oriented, the X's and O's and everything. But when things go wrong, because it's the NFL, you're always going to have some kind of adversity. When things go wrong, can they adjust and overcome that? And that's going to be the biggest question, I think, with this team going forward.
Well, Austin, I appreciate the time, especially doing this on Fight Week. Thanks again for doing this.
Cole, man, it's been a pleasure, dude. Stay casual, and I'll see you when I see you, man. Have a good one.